Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
FSN, it's about what's next. Seems like every day you turn around and there's a new waiver, there's a new delay, there's a new something or other that's handed down by the administration on Obamacare, and it's all unconstitutional. It's all of questionable legal validity. Here to talk about it, Carl J. Jarvis, noted constitutional scholar and author of upcoming book, Abuse of Power, Dysfunction, and Loss of Liberty. Why is this happening to America? Carl, welcome back.
Thank you for having me on, Kerry.
Hey, so just last week, 2 executive orders come down. One is putting off the employer mandate for medium-sized companies defined as those employing 50 to 99 people until 2016, and for large companies, those employing over 100 people, they're okay as long as 70% or more of their employees are covered by Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. Take your pick. I mean, where do they find the authority to do this? I mean, I've never, in my lifetime, I think I've lived through 6 presidents and probably 6, I think Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Ford, maybe 8 presidents. None of them up until this guy have ever tried anything like this. They would have been impeached if they even dreamed of it. And there is no authority for any of this. And yet, try to disobey it. You'll wind up being fined or maybe even thrown in jail.
It's unbelievable what they're doing. You know, they just keep poking holes in this thing, trying to put Band-Aids on it. You know, you and I would agree, I think, in saying that it's a law that never should have been passed in the first place. It's completely unconstitutional to begin with. The fact that it's 2,000 pages long with all these other provisions for executive agencies to create rules thousands of pages beyond that is completely absurd. And what they're finding is what a lot of us knew right from the beginning, is that this thing would not work, it would not fly. And so now they're trying to make all these exemptions and delay it, and it's just becoming a comedy of errors in how they're dealing with the rollout of this thing.
An error of comedies. Take your pick. Right.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, the thing is just a mess, and the real tragedy of it is that people are losing their health insurance. People that had health insurance, people are being put on part-time work instead of having a full-time job because employers are trying to skirt their requirements. And the whole thing is just bringing the economy down the tubes. I'm sure you saw this a couple weeks ago when the Fed was literally using Obamacare as an excuse almost to continue their policy of printing money, because they were talking about how Obamacare was going to weaken the economy and how that was now a factor in their thinking with their quantitative easing policy. I mean, it's just beyond absurd, the point that we're at right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no surprises here. Like you said, I knew it wasn't going to work. I wrote article after article about it going back to April, and you just can't repeal the law or the laws of economics. If something is economically unsound, if it's a little unsound, you can get away with stuff for a while. But when it's completely unsound and it's destined for failure, then it's going to fail, period. You can't do it any other way. It's just not going to work, period. And that's what's happening here. And Humpty Dumpty, go try putting them back together. But Humpty has already taken his fall. ease in pieces, and have fun with it, right?
Right. I think what's really unfortunate, though, is that there's really no serious talk of simply repealing the law, which is really what needs to happen. And I think the issue there, if you kind of peel apart all the different layers of the problem, is the fact that the people elect these folks to Congress, these representatives and senators, and then we really don't have the power to remove them from office at any reasonable point in the future. And so what happens
not
is
by
they just
legal
become
means, not by any legal
right.
means anyway.
That's right. Not by elections, not by any legal means. I mean, the nominating process does not allow us to remove them. We could go on, but so you have these people that end up in Washington sort of captive to all these lobbyists that wrote the Obamacare law in the first place. And then, they're essentially shuffling the deck chairs around the Titanic as it sinks instead of simply saying, you know what, we were wrong. This thing is not going to work. And, bad on us, but we're going to go ahead and repeal the law. I mean, that's the one thing that doesn't seem like it's going to happen, even though this thing is becoming such a mess.
Yeah, it's rather shocking. It's really shocking that we're just going through this thing. And eventually repeal is going to be the only way to go about it. And
I agree.
Carl, if you remember the rationale for passing it, it's because certain people didn't have coverage. Okay. And there were people with pre-existing conditions and they had problems getting insurance. And you know what this reminds me of? You go back to public housing, okay? Got to build these major housing projects because housing projects, there's too many people who don't have housing and the government's going to take care of it. And you know what they found, Carl? When they built these housing projects, they discovered that effectively more units of housing were destroyed to build these massive housing projects than were built in the process. And that's what's happened here, is that more people lost their insurance in the process than got insurance. And, that's the way government programs always work, right? I mean,
that's absolutely right.
That's it.
And it's often, the contrast is often drawn between free markets and socialism. Clearly this is socialism, but there's even a philosophical level to talk about it where, what this is really the result of is people who think that they know better than you do how you should be spending your money, the decisions that you should be making in your life, and essentially they're trying to dictate that to the whole entire country in a way that never did make sense, never will make sense. It doesn't just make us a less free country. It makes us, materially less prosperous. And, I think you can even see how it's going to begin to really cause things to go haywire in this country in a way that I think a lot of people just haven't even woken up to yet.
Hey, it makes us a dumber country and it makes us an inferior country because, look, this is a case where politicians are substituting their judgment for that of the free market. And this is a case where the market knows better than the politicians. And if you doubted that before, you can't doubt it anymore, can you?
That's right. This is a case study in that whole idea that central planning and socialism just don't work. It's an absolute case study in that area.
Yeah, and if the results weren't so devastating and potentially life-threatening, you could really have a good laugh at it, and all the money being lost, and and the damage to economic output and people, you losing your job and you being without insurance and other things, it would be entertaining because it's like the Soviet Union and the type of cars that they used to produce that were really quite funny when you looked at it. But then when you really look at it closely and you say, my God, economic output being lost and people dying in crashes of those Trabants, the East German Trabant, and things like that, then it's really not so funny, is it?
I totally agree. And I think if you look at the potential impact on the real economy, I was mentioning a moment ago that forecast by the Fed, they have to keep printing money because they're not sure what Obamacare is going to do to the economy. And that right there, that kind of thinking is a complete and utter recipe for disaster, because if they think that they're going to just print money to compensate for the negative effects of Obamacare, and so you have a contracting economy at the same time that they're amping up the printing press in order to compensate for that, we are going to end up with the mother of all messes in this country. And, it will be, I guess, poetic and tragic at the same time if that whole thing ends up being the consequence of Obamacare.
And that could well be the case. So, Carl, you're going to be joining us at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium shortly, aren't you?
Indeed, I will be, and I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time back in June, and I'm looking forward to being there again next weekend in Las Vegas. Hey,
well, we're thrilled that you're going to be there, and I can hardly wait. It's definitely one of the highlights of my year. And hey, for those of you who haven't signed up yet, libertymastermind.us. You'll be welcomed by all 15 speakers there. Wayne Allen Root will be the keynote speaker on Friday night at the dinner. So sign up now, libertymastermind.us. Make sure you pre-order Carl's book. Carl, what's your website?
carljjarvis.com, and I've got a little download there for anyone who opts in. The book is going to be launched on March 11th, so if you have any interest in getting to the root of how our political process became such a mess, do please check that out and sign up on carljjarvis.com.
Hey, well, we wish you the best of luck, Carl. We'll have you back on once the book is released, and I can't wait to get my copy. And just go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Link to Carl's site is over there, so if you don't remember it, just click the link. Take you right over there. And don't forget, libertymastermind.us. We will see you in Vegas. Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you. Our friend Tom Dyson at the Palm Beach Letter is giving away free copies of a really cool report he put together called How to Protect Yourself from America's New Secret Police. Inside, you'll learn all sorts of simple, everyday tricks you can use to make yourself a little less visible and vulnerable to scammers, hackers, and even the federal government. For instance, inside Tom's report, you'll learn which free internet email service never to use, This company doesn't care if your account gets hacked or not. 4 things the government must tell you if they request your social security number. And how to spot skimmers lying in wait on ATMs and gas pumps, and much, much more. These tricks and secrets are low-hanging fruit ideas. You don't have to invest time or much money into them. Most are free. But by taking some basic measures, you can make your privacy much harder to invade than your neighbors. Tom's report is available for a limited time to listeners who take a trial subscription to his newsletter. Just visit the Financial Survival Network homepage for more information, or go to www.palmbeachletter2.com. That's www.palmbeachletter2.com.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.